The tragic in-ring death of Owen Hart will be forgotten by no one, especially the horrified fans in attendance and also the heartbroken wrestlers in the locker room. But was that show handled respectfully? Your second most controversial moment. The show must go on.
Just the title, "The Show Goes On," is sad.
Wow, now you've touched on something very close to my heart.
Boy, that's a tough call.
Whoa, that's big. That's huge.
Man, that's a tough one. Well, I'm still believe that when somebody falls from the ceiling, the show should probably stop.
It's a terrible, terrible thing, but what do you do? You know, that's a tough one. That's a tough call, you know.
Well, that's a tragedy. I mean, for goodness sakes, if you can't stop a production at that time and people understand it, I don't know when you can. I know from the business side of it how big an investment the company has in a pay-per-view, and it's easy to make the decision that you were justified to do it, and the easy answer is, well, Owen would have wanted it himself, and that's how he was committed to the business. But the truth of it is, you know, and I relate to baseball, an umpire had a heart attack and died before the game started and collapsed on the field, and basically the game was stopped and canceled. Again, it's one game, it's not a pay-per-view, but boy, that was a tough decision to make, and I would not have wanted to have to make that decision. And in a perfect world, you would like to have seen them say, that's it, stop the show, and we'll refund people's money or do it again or something. But it didn't happen.
I would think you would shut the whole thing down, and, you know, it's a bad thing, and the money you're going to lose and everything, that's not an issue. It's a person's life, and it's a friend of everybody's, and, you know, I would think you'd stop the show.
I think that's definitely should be a top 5 topic. I think, you know, unfortunately, I believe it happened fairly early on in the pay-per-view, and I think to stop everything after that, it's a judgment call. I think that you kind of show has to go on. Show's going to go on regardless anyway eventually. So to go dark after that would have made, you know, might have been more controversial later to stop the whole show, especially when people really maybe not been able to wrap their minds around what happened or what kind of what actually took place. I think at that point you have to work on impulse, and you have to go on with the show. And to be honest, if you could have asked probably Owen, he probably would have said, I don't know him personally, but he probably would have said, you have to let the show go on because it's going to go on regardless.
The show must go on because that's part of a performer. You have a buy rate that millions of people have already bought the show. You have to have the show continue. I don't think there was any insult to Owen that the show continued on.
I try to put myself in Vince's position, you know. No, I would, yeah, wouldn't have went on. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I loved Owen Hart to death, but my own personal belief is the show has to go on, no matter what.
I couldn't go out there, you know. I mean, that'd be a tough one. You know, unless you're going out there because they're doing something, they have to keep the people there to protect him, you know, his life or something, you know, the show goes on then. You know what I'm saying? If it's to help the situation out. But if it's just to make money or to lose some advertiser or something, then it would be a wrong thing to do.
Me and Road Dogg were on literally 2 matches after that. You know, there's a show that you have to put on. There's things that go wrong in every aspect of entertainment, life. Anything you do, there's a risk involved in everything. Should the show have went on? that's not for me to call. My deal is to do what is asked of me and what I get paid for and what people come to see the New Age Outlaws, which that's what's a part of what was going on at the time. When they came to see me in Road Dogg, they want to see us. After something like that, I don't know, I can't speak for what was going on, but somebody made the decision, we did our jobs and went out there and performed the best that we can. Me and Brian were extremely close to Owen, tremendous guy, but we have to still do our jobs.
I don't feel as if they should have stopped the pay-per-view because the needs of the many, now I know it sounds cruel, but it's fair to take a turn from Jake Roberts. The needs out of the many outweigh the needs of the few. There was a few people who thought, well, we should stop the pay-per-view and we shouldn't continue on with it. But accidents happen. And because there's an accident on the freeway doesn't mean you stop the traffic all day that day. You stop the traffic only long enough to take care of the accident, and then you move on.
It's not like it was set up as an angle and the guy pops up. He's dead. I have a little respect for his family. I have a little respect for yourself. It's only dollars. I mean, I'm sure that the sponsors or the production, they put old clips or something on. I mean, how fast is it when somebody of significance dies and they run to the truck or the production company and say, hey, let's bring on some stuff about his career, give him a little bit of praise, and interview the people about how they felt about him.
I remember hearing of it. I never saw it. I never even looked for footage afterwards to see, like everybody else did with the curiosity, to try to find it. I never seen it. I don't want to see it. But I heard about it, and I remember hearing of it, and I remember having the same reaction then as, not being surprised at all that they continued the pay-per-view at all. None.
Whether they'd have said no and we'd have went home, or would they say the show goes on and we do it, we do our jobs to the best that we can do it. Night in and night out, day in, day out.
I do remember hearing and seeing the event happen. And at first, nobody believed it. It was such a shocker. And then because the show did go on, I think in that moment of shock, personally, it confused me more. And then, of course, I saw him being taken into the back, and he was already blue in the face, and he was dead. He was dead. And it was very, I remember breaking down, really just broke down. And I was not in very good condition at that time. But the show should stop. People were really wondering, if it was real or not, or, if it was somehow fake. But
Owen Hart was one of my dearest friends in the wrestling business. We shared a passion for country music, and especially the singer Colin Ray. And every time Owen and I would see each other, we'd start saying, one boy, one girl, two hearts bleed. We were insane at this.
I went to Owen's funeral. Owen Hart was a good friend of mine. I brought my son James, who's in the NFL now, to Owen's funeral. I knew for a fact, and talking and riding in the cars with Owen Hart, that he did not want to do any of that coming down from the ceiling. He hated rappelling down by the cable. Owen was people didn't know, Owen was a kindergarten teacher by heart. He had a degree in teaching. He just wanted to get a couple more years done in the wrestling business to get some financial security for his family and go teach. And it was ironic when he fell, because it was just probably a month before that he had stopped through my house and watched my kids play hockey, because his kids were getting to that age, Owen Jr. And it was a sad thing.
I personally don't know if I could have gone on, because I was very close with Owen. We traveled on the road together. He ribbed me, I ribbed him. We were friends. But another way to look at it, you can't really shut down this multi-million-dollar production. It is absolutely one of the most horrible things that has ever happened in this business. But, how much of a hit would that company have taken? I'm sure there would have been fans upset too. Fans upset that it went on, fans upset if it didn't go on. So that's a tough one. If I was working in the show, I probably would have had a real hard time working after that. I don't know if I could have.
Well, I knew Owen pretty well, and Owen was the kind of guy that nobody could ever say anything negative about Owen. He was a family man, and he had his priorities straight, and only the good die young, you know. That holds fast to this situation. But the show went on. It shouldn't have.
Owen was one of the funniest people, one of the best pranksters I've ever met in my life. And but to get to the question, should the show have gone on? No. I don't think so. I think at that point, I don't know what I would have done, but I don't know if I would have just continued the wrestling at that point. I might have just tried to do something. It's a tough question. One end of me says no. The other end of me is going like, well, if it's going to take the focus off what happened so it can be clear to get him to the hospital and tend to him, yeah, maybe it was the right decision. I don't know what I would have done at that moment. And remember, for somebody like Vince McMahon, that's a momentary decision. It's not something that requires, that takes a lot of thought. So what he did at that point, maybe that was right.
They should have stopped the pay-per-view. I mean, there's things that you just stop things for. I remember being there with Chris Benoit, and I was there when Eddie Guerrero passed, and every time all I could think is, how can anybody get their mind right? I remember how sad everybody was at those two, and I wasn't there, of course, when Owen, but yeah, I think it's sad. It's so sad to think that the show must go on, because it really didn't, because he was gone.
When I first started in wrestling, my first match, I was in a tag match. A guy dies in the front row. We're in a 2 out 3 falls. Guy dies in the front row. They take us out of the ring, put us back in the dressing room. I'm taking a shower. Promoter says, "Where are you going?" Ace Freeman's promoter outside of Pittsburgh. "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, the guy died. Aren't you going to stop?" "Well, no, they're going to get him out of here in 5 minutes." I thought, my God, what a brutal business.
I remember when Davey Boy died, I was actually working on an indie show in Queens, and I was just about to go to the ring when my phone rang, and it was Diana, and she just said, "Hi, Tammy, it's Diana, Davey Boy just died." And I was just like, oh, first of all, that's a nice way to tell me. Second of all, he was one of my best friends, so yeah, I couldn't work that night, and that was just an indie show. So I don't think I could have gone on, international television and worked. But yeah, maybe they could have taken a pause, or at least paused the show for a little while, but it's not my call.
And by the way, Owen is still thought of all the time. I mean, I think about him often, and he's missed by everybody.